Hi friends, today we're going to look at the most underrated weapons in Apex Legends Season 9. These are the guns that people don't really rave about, the kind of weapons that people don't always think about picking up, and probably the kind of weapons you would swap out for one of its seemingly more powerful peers. However, these weapons can actually be useful with a bit of practice. They might even help you win more games in Apex Legends Season 9, so I thought I'd put together this video and maybe inspire you to try them out. The first is the EVA 8. Now the EVA 8 has been in the game since the start, and it's gone from varying degrees of being good and not so good, but at the moment it's really strong, but it's often overshadowed by the Mastiff and now the Peacekeeper as its back as floor loot. However, the EVA 8 really is underrated. And I mean this because I don't see too many people using it. I'll often see people swap it out for a Peacekeeper or a Mastiff. But the fact that you see pros in the ALGS tournament still using the EVA 8 should be a good enough indicator of how strong it is. If you didn't know, the EVA 8 was buffed last season with an increased fire rate to 2.1. And if you want some stats to back up the idea that the EVA 8 is better than you think, it actually has a higher headshot and body DPS than any other shotgun. It has a 208 and a 132 DPS respectively, and if you compare that to the Mastiff with 123 headshot DPS or the Peacekeeper with a 90 headshot DPS, you can see the potential benefit of using the EVA 8. And if you use this as a secondary weapon in the Battle Royale mode, it can be really strong. It's also good for arena mode because it's so cheap at 250 crafting materials, and it's actually one of the cheapest weapons to buy and fully upgrade in arena mode, apart from the P2020 and Mozambique of course. I would say the EVA 8 is really good for you if perhaps you find it a little harder to hit your shots with the Mastiff and the Peacekeeper. The EVA 8 is definitely a lot more forgiving. So maybe consider giving the EVA 8 a try. Next we have the LStar. It's another weapon I see not too many people using. It's particularly the kind of weapon I see people that would pick up if they have nothing else, but I always see they would swap it for a Vault or even a Havoc. Having said that though, the LStar is actually a really strong weapon, and I think people have started to notice it with the launch of arena mode, simply because it's so cost effective and the fact that you don't need to pay for upgrades such as extended mags. One really great thing about the LStar is that if you hit your headshots, the bullets are so big and bright, they do tend to blind opponents and make it quite hard for them to see. You can also deal decent damage with the LStar. At 36 headshot and 18 body shot damage, this is definitely stronger than some assault rifles and certainly a lot of SMGs. Now in terms of raw damage, it's actually the same as the Spitfire, but actually the LStar excels in terms of fire rate. The LStar has a 600 RPM versus the 540 RPM of the Spitfire, meaning the DPS of the LStar is actually higher at 180 instead of the 162 for the Spitfire. I would strongly recommend the LStar for arena mode, particularly early on in the rounds. So round 1 to 3, you'll definitely find the LStars a lot more useful than you might think. Also try to learn to crouch spam with the LStar, and also try to hold down as you shoot to control the recoil. This will definitely help you win a lot more early rounds in arena mode, and same for the Battle Royale mode. If you see an LStar early game, don't be afraid to pick it up. The next weapon in my top 5 underrated weapons list is the Alternator. Again, it's another weapon that I think is overshadowed by its friends in the same category. But actually, the Alternator after the damage increase in Season 8 and the magazine increase back in Season 5 is a fairly well balanced weapon. It's definitely one of the top early choices in arena mode because it's fairly cheap at 400 crafting materials, and it also means you can at least afford level 1 attachment in the first round. It's also a decent weapon in the Battle Royale, especially early on. I think it is fair to say you would swap for a Vault or an R99 for the end game, but certainly early to mid game, the Alternator is a very strong weapon, especially in those up close battles. And just to give you some more supporting evidence, the Alternator actually does the most damage per bullet out of all of the SMGs at 24 for a headshot and 16 for a body shot. And if you compare that to the Vault, which has 23 headshot and 15 body shot damage, and the R99 which has 17 headshot damage and 11 body shot damage. So you can tell from those stats that the Alternator does do more damage than any other SMG. Next we have the 4th most underrated weapon in Apex Legends Season 9, and I've put the Sentinel here. The Sentinel actually does the most damage out of any sniper in terms of single bullet headshots, and that gap gets even bigger when it's charged. It goes from 140 base headshot damage to 176 for a charged headshot, and that's actually enough to down someone with a blue Evo shield in one hit. If you compare that to the 118 damage of the longbow and the 116 of the charge rifle, neither of which can down someone with a blue Evo shield in one hit. Also, this season we've had the introduction of the Deadeye tempo, and this really helps with the fire rate, so if you can pick one up and equip it to your Sentinel, you'll definitely find the fire rate speeds up a little bit. Again, you can start to feel the difference with this hop up. It's not quite as fast as a longbow, but it definitely feels a lot faster than a standard Sentinel. This is a good one for the wider arena maps. I wouldn't suggest it for something up close like Thermal, but if you've got something with good high ground, for example something like Party Crasher, where you can shoot across the map with the Sentinel, this is actually a good choice for the early rounds of arena mode. I would also recommend it for Battle Royale modes, because shield cells are easier to come by in Battle Royale mode. And definitely if you've got a Sentinel in a Battle Royale, don't be afraid to stack those shield cells. I know some of you are a bit concerned about the fire rate when you try to use it. It's all about rhythm, so just try to work out the timing of the Sentinel and try to get that timing right, and suddenly the Sentinel will start to feel like a really good weapon. The final weapon on my underrated list for Apex Legends Season 9 is the G7 Scout. Now I feel like this weapon has kind of gone unnoticed this season, and maybe even last season, with the introduction of the bow this season and the 30-30 repeater last season. It kind of feels like the G7 Scout has almost been forgotten a little bit. When it comes to arena mode, for sure the G7 Scout is arguably one of the best value weapons to choose, especially in the earlier rounds. And I say this because the base cost at 350 is a real bargain compared to some of the other weapons. It also comes with a free level 1 scope for the base price, unlike most other weapons. You don't get quite the damage output per bullet that you do with the bow or the 30-30 when you're using the G7 Scout, but you definitely do get a much faster fire rate, and this leads to a higher body and headshot DPS for the G7 Scout. In fact, it has the fastest fire rate out of any marksman category weapon. With the G7 you can hit 240 rounds per minute compared to the 140 rounds per minute of the 30-30 repeater. The 60 headshot damage is also still decent considering the fast fire rate you get with the G7, and I find the bullet travel speed is slightly better with the G7 Scout than it is with the 30-30 repeater. This is just another weapon I feel has gone a bit unnoticed and is a bit underrated for Apex Legends Season 9, so maybe consider giving it a go. It definitely might help revolutionize your game. These are just a few thoughts of some weapons that I think are underrated in the game based on what I've seen people using, and perhaps you might want to give one of these a try, because they might actually help you win more games, not only in arena mode but also Battle Royale. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.